I've been up for 3 nights. My eyes are bloodshot red. Damn, I wanna see the sunshine. It's getting to my head. One look in the mirror, don't like what I find. I know that somewhere in there there's a good guy.
All right, here we go, Lost Ruins of Arnak. My name is Daniel, and in these videos, I show you how I learn board games that I have in my collection. Because I know for a lot of us, we buy games because they're the newest, coolest thing, the hotness, and we need it. And then we get it to our shelf, and it doesn't come off the shelf because either we don't have the right people to play it with, or we don't know how to play the game. Have you ever been at a game night and someone has asked you, oh, that looks really cool, do you know how to play? And you have to just say, no, I don't really. So then at that point, you have two choices. Either you awkwardly go through the rule book while everyone is looking at you, staring at you in great anticipation for this awesome game you're about to play, or you just say, no, I guess we should play something else tonight, which is also a bummer. So tonight, I'm gonna go through Lost Ruins of Arnak, and I'm gonna do the bumbling and fumbling. The hope in all of this is that watching me struggle to learn new games will give you the courage to sit down and learn the games that are sitting on your shelf of shame. And so I hope that this can be a journey that we go on together. And if you're liking what you're seeing and you're enjoying your time with me here, please feel free to subscribe to the channel, and please comment down below if there's a game that you want to get off your shelf of shame. So without further ado, let's hit the rule book and learn Lost Ruins of Arnak. So as you can see, I've already done the setup, and now we're ready to learn the core rules of the game. Why I felt so drawn to this game in the first place was kind of the Uncharted Indiana Jones theme that it has going on. And just putting out a few cards, setting up a few tiles, putting out a few resources, I already feel like I'm in those worlds of Indiana Jones and Uncharted, like I have my pistol on my hip and I'm ready to go swinging on some sort of vine and getting some bad guys, getting into a sword fight, a gunfight. I don't know. This is just already evocative of those kind of adventure stories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the things that I've already set up for you. So let's just go up to kind of more of a top-down view. So as you can already tell, it's a really long board. It takes up quite a bit of table space. And it's going to be interesting to try and reach the different areas of the board while sitting. We'll see how that goes. But already right off the top, I had a big old deck of cards, and I just separated those out. So there was a deck of artifact cards up here, which were blue, and I only put one of those out to start the round. And there's this moon staff that comes with the game, and I just put that where it told me to on round one, and put one artifact, the blue card, right here. And so then the rest of the cards out here are items, and so this deck here is item cards, right? Yeah. So a deck of artifact cards that I shuffled, and a deck of item cards that I shuffled, and then the deck of fear cards, and they're all the same, and so they're face up, just right in the middle there. So right off the bat, that's what I did. I set up those deck of cards and set up the card row, which I assume you'll be able to purchase, and it looks like as the rounds go on, you'll move the staff, and more artifacts will be available, and less items will be available. Neat. And then there were these idle tokens, and you see how I set those up on a variety of spaces here. So these top spaces have two idols apiece, one face up, one face down, and then the rest of these spaces here have one idol face up, setting up for a two-player game that I was to block all of the 2 feet spaces. And then I poured out all of the resources onto their indicated spots. Each spot kind of is allocated to a particular resource. So I just put 2 and 2 together and put the resource on the spot that it looked like it should have got. I hope I was right. So then I also set up these level 1 site tiles, and I just shuffled those up and put them down here. And then I did the same for level 2 site tiles. And then there were these monster tiles. And so I took those, shuffled them up, and put them down right where it told me to. And then we have what's called assistant tiles, and I made 3 piles of 4 assistant tiles. and put those silver side up. The back side is gold. And so again, we'll find out kind of what the difference is there. And then I put the research tokens. So there's a magnifying glass and a book for each player. And I put those down at the bottom of what I assume is the research track. And so all along the research track, there's these research bonus tiles that I put here. And there were spots that are indicating that you put bonus tiles on for 4+ players or 3+ players or whatever the case may be. So for 2, I just did the ones that indicated only 2 players. And then I put a pile of 2 face down bonus tokens up at the top there. And then there's these tiles here, which are called temple tiles. And there's 2 pointers, 6 pointers, and 11 pointers. And I just put out the number of tiles for a 2-player game. And then I just set up the player boards, which was just a starting deck of cards, which were 4 cards that were green around the border, indicating they were for the green player. And then I have a red player set up as well. And then I added 2 fear cards to the deck. So a deck of 6 cards to start. And then the first player, which is indicated by this clock token, receives 2 gold. And then the second player receives 1 gold and 1 compass. And so I set that up for the red player over there. And so that's all I've done so far. So now I'm ready to learn the game. Okay, so here we are all set up and ready to play. Ready to play, oh my goodness. Ready to learn Lost Ruins of Arnak. We've already done the setup here, and now we're going to move on to, we've done the player setup, we've got our starting decks, and now it's gameplay. I opened the box and I saw kind of this rule book. It's a little thick. It's a little thick, so I'm excited for what we have in store for us right now. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's do this. So the goal of the game, your task is to lead an expedition to explore the uncharted island of Arnak and discover the secrets of a vanished civilization. You will equip your expedition with useful items, search the jungles for mysterious artifacts and intriguing archaeological sites, struggle to overcome the guardians of those sites, and perhaps most importantly, piece together the fragments of Arnak's ruins into a coherent body of research that could lead to the discovery of the lost temple. Okay, so they've essentially just kind of outlined all the different tasks that we can do. Collect items, collect artifacts, research, fight monsters, uncover ancient sites. There's just all the different kind of locations and things that we'll be doing in the game in a little narrative form. Cool. Your expedition's various accomplishments are worth points, which will be added up at the end of the game to determine which player has led the most successful expedition. Okay, so there's this purple symbol with a number in it, and that's the victory points. So basically, cards have victory points on them, idols have victory points on them, monsters have victory points. So the game is played over 5 rounds, which we've seen with this moon staff that kind of indicates the round. So in 5 rounds, we're going to try and run the most successful archaeological expedition. Okay, players take turns choosing various actions that help them uncover the secrets of the island over the course of the game. More of the island will be explored and more actions will become available. Actions can earn you resources, opportunities, and points. Each round proceeds as follows. Draw. All players draw from their deck until they have a hand of 5 cards. 2. Take turns. The players with the starting player marker starts. Players take turns clockwise around the table. You are limited to 1 main action on your turn, plus an unlimited number of free actions. Okay. 3. Pass. On your turn, you may pass to indicate you are done playing for the remainder of the round. The other players continue taking turns until all players have passed. 4. Set up for the next round. All cards in your play area are shuffled and returned to the bottom of your deck. Oh. The board is set up for the next round. The starting player marker is passed to the left. Oh, right, so there's no discard pile. Interesting, so your deck just kind of keeps on. Well, now, essentially that's the same thing as a discard pile, except each round you're ensured that you're going to see the cards that you played the previous round sooner than later. So like if you don't need to shuffle for a couple rounds, if you were to discard them, they would all get shuffled together at the same time. Whereas here, all the cards that you use in a round get put in your deck again first. Interesting. I'd like to see how that makes a difference or not. At the end of each round, move the moon staff to mark the passage of time. As the moon waxes, the expeditions explore the island, acquire useful items and artifacts, and research the legends of Arnak. After 5 rounds, the moon is full, and it is time to see who led the most successful expedition. Okay, and then it has a list of the resources here. The coins, the compasses, the tablets. So these are tablets, arrowheads, jewels. All right. All right, so on my turn. On your turn, you have several options. Your choices will depend on the cards in your hand and the situation on the game board. Main actions. On your turn, you may perform 1 main action plus unlimited number of free actions. Okay, so they're very clear about that, so that'll be interesting how that plays out. So main actions are dig at a site, discover a new site, overcome a guardian, buy a card, play a card, research, or pass. Okay, that's not so crazy. I thought it was 1 main action per round and then free actions and turns, but no, okay. Every turn you get 1 main action, then you can do unlimited number of free actions. So in your hand, in the top left-hand corner, it looks like there's a travel value. You can use this travel value to pay for certain actions, like the dig a site action on the facing page. All right. Or an effect. You can play the card for its effect. This effect means you take a coin token from the supply board. And the lightning bolt means it's a free action. So free actions, an effect with this icon does not count as the main action of your turn. Okay, then it highlights fear cards. A fear card has no effect, however, it can be used for its travel value. Your play area, when you use a card, it goes face up on the table in front of you, next to your player board. This space is called your play area. Your play area is basically a spread out discard pile. Cards accumulate from turn to turn. They are not recycled into your deck until the end of the round. All right, so now we're going to go through the main actions. Okay, dig at a site. So I'm really digging how the deck is going to be multi-use, where you're going to have cards in your deck that are going to allow you to do main actions, but at the same time, they're going to kind of give you these free actions as you go along. So I can see those free actions really accumulating into some pretty big turns. So I'm very excited to see how that goes. So as your main action for your turn, you can send one of your archaeologists to dig at any of the 5 tent sites. So these are these sites right here near the bottom of the board, just above where the resources are. It looks like there's 5 sites that you can go to as worker placement spots. You will also be able to dig at 1 and 2 sites after they have been discovered. So, okay, these kind of buried sites that we'll be getting after. Oh, interesting. I think I see what's going to happen there. My guess is that those sites are going to be put on the board at these locations once you travel there or something along those lines, but we'll see. Dig at a site. Pay the travel cost depicted on the space to which you want to send your archaeologist. The space must be unoccupied. That is, it must have no archaeologist figure on it. And in a 2 or 3 player game, it must also have no blocking tile. Okay, those are those little tidal wave tiles that we put on the board earlier. Move your archaeologist from your player board to that space. Resolve the effect depicted at the site. A full key of icons is on the back page of this rulebook. Well, would you look at that? Okay, so classic worker placement. Bam! And I get 2 coins. Bam! And I get 2 compasses. Bam! And I get 2 tablets. Bam! And I get an arrowhead. Bam! And now we reference the back of the sheet. So you do that. You essentially just discard a card without using it, and you get a gem. If both your archaeologists are already on sites, you cannot take this action. Okay, classic. So then paying travel costs. As you would expect, you can pay a cost of boot by spending a card with a boot icon. Take the card from your hand and put it face up into your play area, ignoring its effect. Right, so always remember, you can use a card for its travel icon or for its free action if it has an effect. So either its effect or its travel value. You can also pay with higher travel values as shown in the travel hierarchy on this page. Okay, cool. So basically there's plane icons, there's jeeps, there's boats, and there's boots. And so if you need to pay a boot, you can pay a plane. If you want to pay a jeep, you can pay a plane. If you want to pay a boat, you can pay a jeep. Planes pay for anything. Jeeps cannot pay for boats and vice versa. So jeeps and boats are on the same level, but they can't pay for one another. But they can pay for boots, and any travel value pays for a boot. Okay, sweet. 2 icons. If a cost requires 2 icons, you can cover it with travel values from 2 sources. It's also possible that you have a card that gives you 2 icons all by itself, such a card can also cover a 1 icon cost, but in that case, the extra icon will probably be wasted. It does not carry over to the next turn. So no change on travel costs. All right, we're used to this stuff. We know what's going on here. We're good. Okay, it has a note here about hiring a pilot. You can always spend 2 coins to generate a plane, which can be used to pay for any travel icon as shown in the travel hierarchy below. All right, so if you don't have what you're looking for with your travel icons, you can always pay 2 coins and buy a plane. At the beginning of the game, only 5 sites are available for digging, but during play you can find new ones. You can discover any 1 or 2 site that does not yet have a site tile. All right, so that's cool, because I was looking at the board and I was like, okay, there's lots of places to go, but it's just all these idols. Is that going to be exciting, or how's that going to work? But we're going to reveal a whole bunch of other worker placement spaces to get resources and things like this. That's why when I was looking for points earlier and I didn't find any on these site tiles, that's why, because they're worker placement spaces. They're resource spaces, essentially. So to discover a new site, traverse the wilderness. Decide whether you want to discover a 1 site or a 2 site. Check the board and pay the depicted cost. Then choose an undiscovered site in that region and pay the travel cost to move your archaeologist from your board to that site's space. Oh right, yeah, so down here on the board it shows, okay, if I want to discover a site up here at the top of the board, these are the 2 spaces way up here. It looks like I have to spend 6 compasses. But down here I only have to spend 3 compasses. Okay, so now we do the travel action with the travel icons on our cards to get to that space. We just choose one that looks good to us. You take the idols, so you're probably going to be choosing the space based on what idols are available if the idols are face up, and also based on the cost, because there's different travel costs, so you might not have the right travel cost card to go to the space that has the idol that you want, so you might go to a different one. Okay, there's some variability here. This is cool. This is cool. All right. So you take the idol, immediately resolve the idol's effect. If the site has 2 idols, you take them both, but use only the effect of the face-up one. Keep your idols on your player board face down on the illustrated supply crates. Okay. Discover the site. Take the top tile from the stack that matches the site, 1 or 2, place it on the board face up. The site has now been discovered and you immediately resolve its effect. Neat. Okay, so you don't have to go there again. It's not like you uncover it and then your opponents reap the reward. You also get to reap the reward right away. Awaken the Guardian. Draw the top tile from the Guardian stack. I've been calling them monsters. I guess they're guardians of these ancient sites. The Guardian stack and place it face up on the site tile. Ooh, oh, cool. You see how this works. You have the site tile, and then you have the Guardian. So the Guardian fits nicely over the site tile, like that. The Guardian does not affect you immediately. However, at the end of the round, you will gain a fear card when you take your archaeologist back from a site that has a Guardian on it. To avoid this, you may try to overcome the Guardian as an action on a later turn. Or you might be able to escape the Guardian with the help of certain cards that allow you to move your archaeologist or the Guardian. Once your archaeologist is gone, for example, in a later round, the discovered site is another place archaeologists can be sent to dig. The compass cost, printed on the board, applies only when you discover these sites, not when you dig. You can send an archaeologist to dig at a site that still has a Guardian. Returning from such a site at the end of the round gives you a fear card. even if you were not the one who awoke the guardian. Okay, so you kind of want to just get rid of guardians so that you don't clog your hand with fear cards. Okay, so let's talk about overcoming guardians. Okay, so let's kick some guardian butt. Guardians, mysterious creatures, guard the ruins on the island. A guardian appears whenever a player discovers a new site. The guardian has no immediate effect. However, at the end of the round, you gain a fear card for each archaeologist returning from a site that still has a guardian. It's kind of cool that you only get fear cards. Like, by the look of these creatures, I feel like you should be ripped in two and just like go back with, one of your workers like literally in two pieces. But that's fine. I'll take a fear card. They just look a little more intimidating than just, oh, I'm scared. They do not prevent archaeologists from digging at their sites. So really, I don't know how viable it is as a strategy, but you could just keep on getting fear cards, especially if you had an artifact or something, or an item that let you trash fear cards. If that's a thing. I don't know yet. We'll find out. As your turn's main action, you may overcome a guardian. You must have an archaeologist on the guardian site. Pay the cost depicted at the bottom of the guardian tile. Remove the guardian from the board and keep it by your player board. Okay, because I assume since you'll get the victory points. So probably not a viable strategy to not go after guardians, because if you do, you get victory points. This effect allows you to overcome a guardian on a site where you have an archaeologist without paying the cost. However, the effect itself may have a cost, which you must pay. Guardians overcome in this way still go beside your player board. Cool, so there's a little icon here with a check mark over the guardian face that's on the back of the guardian tiles. And so it means that when you see that icon, you're able to defeat a guardian for free, essentially. Using a guardian's boon. Having overcome the guardian, you have earned its respect, and it can grant you the boon depicted in the upper right corner. The boon can be used once during the game. On any of your turns after using the boon, turn the guardian face down to show that the boon cannot be used again. Some boons are travel values that can be used to pay a travel cost, just like spending cards from your hand. Other boons are free actions, which can be used at any time during any of your turns. The guardian will be worth 5 points at the end of the game, whether you use its boon or not. All right, cool. So these guardians have all sorts of things going on for them. So probably a good thing to take care of business. Idols. You find idols when you discover new sites. When you get an idol, keep it on the supply crates of your player board. Idols should be face down because the discovery reward is no longer relevant. Each idol will be worth 3 points at the end of the game. So idols are worth 3 points, and okay, they're kind of giving away points when we're talking about revealing new sites and things like this. Okay. Neat. Idol slots. The 4 slots at the top of your board give you access to useful effects. On your turn, you may put an idol in a slot as a free action. Move the idol from your supply crates to the leftmost unoccupied slot on your player board. Choose one effect from the 5 depicted options. Okay, so yeah, on your player board, there's extra effects, and if you put an idol down, you get those effects. But use the idol's power wisely. Each of the 4 slots will be worth a certain number of points if it is still empty at the end of the game. An idol in a slot cannot be moved. So each slot can be used only once per game, unless you find an artifact that allows you to bend this rule. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think the slots are worth 1, 2, 3, and 4 victory points if they are not used at the end of the game. But using them could come in handy. Yeah, but that's a total of 10 victory points if you use all those slots. All right, so now we got 2 more actions. We got buy a card and we got play a card. So these are 2 more main actions. So you improve your deck by buying artifacts and items from the card row. So it's right up here. The card row is divided into 2 parts by the moon staff. So at the first round, like we've already kind of determined, there's only 1 artifact available. Then the other 5 cards are items. As the rounds move, that's going to increase the number of artifacts that are available and decrease the number of items that are available. Items. You can buy useful items to equip your expedition. An item you buy goes to the bottom of your deck, which means it will usually show up in your hand at the beginning of the next round. Okay, so that's handy. So as soon as you buy it, you put it at the bottom of your deck. That's cool. That's neat. And then artifacts. Artifacts are valuable treasures you find while exploring the island. You pay for them with compass tokens, representing time spent exploring. We'll say that you buy the card, even though your expedition is actually searching for it by whacking through the jungle and trekking across the rocky plains. Unlike items, an artifact can be used as soon as you take it from the card row. Oh, neat. So to buy an item, choose an item in the card row, pay the cost depicted at the bottom of the card, put the item face down on the bottom of your deck, refill the card row. To buy an artifact, choose an artifact in the card row, pay the compass cost depicted at the bottom of the card, move the artifact to your play area. You have the option of immediately resolve its effect, ignoring the tablet cost in the corner. Refill the card row. Note, when you buy an artifact, you get to resolve its effect. That effect might be another action, like sending an archaeologist to dig at a site. All this is considered to be part of your main action for the turn. Okay, so artifacts kind of break the rules of one main action per turn because a artifact action might be a main action. Neat. Refilling the card row. At the end of your turn, if the card row is missing a card, refill the row with a card of the same type. Slide cards towards the moon staff to make space on the end. Deal a new card. If a deck runs out of cards, then for cards of that type, you no longer slide cards to refill the roll. And so now to play a card. To play a card, play the card from your hand face up into your play area, resolve the card's effects. The card remains face up in your play area for the remainder of the round unless you get a chance to exile it, as explained below. Lightning, an effect with this icon, is a free action. That means playing the card does not count as your main action for your turn. Your funding and exploration cards have effects that are free actions, and some item effects are free actions too. On the other hand, if the effect is not marked as a free action, it is the main action for your turn. All artifact effects are main actions, as are some item effects, like the one of the parrot. When you play an artifact, you also have to pay a special tablet cost, as explained in the box on this page. That rule does not apply to items. Reminder, a card in hand can either be spent for its travel value, played for its effect, or played for its effect, not both. All right. Okay, so we have a lot going on here with just when you play a card, it's either going to be your main action, or if it has the lightning bolt symbol, then it's a free action. But typically, a card played is going to be a main action. And artifacts with the main action, you're going to have to pay a tablet cost for them, which you do not pay when you first acquire the card. Okay, so there's a little note about exile, which I assume is trashing cards. Certain rules and effects send cards into exile, which is located at the top of the main board. Items and artifacts have special exile piles near their decks. Fear cards go back to the fear deck when they are exiled. Funding and exploration cards should go near the fear deck when they are exiled, except for fear cards. The cards in exile usually don't come back into play. All right, so there's little spots over here for artifact cards and item cards, and you just trash them. You just trash them. This symbol, which is an X over a card back, this symbol marks the artifact and item exile piles on the board. If you see the symbol in an effect, it means you may exile a card from your hand or from your play area. That's good to know. Tip, if possible, it is more efficient to use a card and then exile it from your play area rather than exiling it from your hand. All right, let's keep going. All right, so now we got this big research track here to work out. So we've looked at digging at sites, we've looked at discovering new sites, we've looked at battling guardians, we've looked at playing cards and buying cards, and now there's this whole research track piece that's still up for us to discover. So here we go. Let's keep going and doing this. A research action moves one of your research tokens up to the next row of the research track. Decide which resource token to move. If your notebook is below your magnifying glass, you may move either token. However, your notebook must never move to a row above your magnifying glass. This is easy to remember. First you discover something, then you write it down. Choose a space to move into. You can only move up into a space that is connected to your current space. Sometimes this leaves you with only one choice. Don't worry about other research tokens. Multiple tokens can share the same space. Pay the cost to move into the space. The cost is printed on the bridge connecting your old space with your new space. Gain the results of your research. Take a bonus tile. If the space has a face-up research bonus tile, immediately gain the depicted bonus and remove the bonus tile from the game. Only the first player to reach that space gets the bonus. You always resolve the row's effect. The effect depends on whether you moved your magnifying glass or your notebook, as depicted on the end of the row. Ignore the points for now. Those points will be scored at the end of the game, based on where your token ends up. You're allowed to resolve the row's effect before using the bonus tile if you want. Okay, so on the side of each level, moving up the research track, there's a bonus that corresponds to either the magnifying glass or the notebook. And so you might be choosing which of those tokens to move up based on the reward that's given. So the first player to make it to that space on the research track will get a bonus tile, which will have a reward on it. So maybe drawing an extra card, gaining a resource, being able to exile a card, whatever the case may be. But then also what token you use is going to give you a reward. And it doesn't matter which order you cash out those rewards. The Lost Temple. Bam, bam, bam. When your magnifying glass reaches the top row of the research track, you have discovered the Lost Temple! Exclamation mark. Unlike the other rows, you get more points if you get here earlier. Place your magnifying glass on the remaining empty space worth the most points. Then take a bonus tile. Look through the stacks of the face-down tiles and choose one. Return the others. There are just enough for everyone. It is not possible to move your notebook token to the Lost Temple row. So I've hit something that I'm kind of confused about. Look through the stack of face-down tiles and choose one. Return the others. Okay, so my assumption is that you'll actually look at what those bonus tiles are and then choose the one you want. And there's just enough for each player to get that. But that's only for discovering the Lost Temple. Okay, so then you get to explore the Lost Temple potentially. So once you have found the Lost Temple, you can use later research actions to discover Arnak's stories. If you choose to research with your magnifying glass when it is already in the Lost Temple, instead of paying to advance the token, you pay to take one temple tile from any one of the stacks. At the bottom of the temple are 3 different costs you can pay. Each stack of tiles has a particular combination of costs as illustrated on the right. For example, the 6-point stack on the left requires you to pay the 2 costs on the left. The 6-point stack on the right requires you to pay 2 costs on the right. The 11-point stack at the top requires you to pay all 3 costs. Okay. So then there's some clarification in the rulebook about where to move and just examples of the different bonuses you get for moving up the research track. But I think when you look, okay, so here's, because I was wondering where the assistants come in, and this is where the assistants come in. There's an action, usually gaining it with your journal, where you're able to gain one of these assistants. And so the actual icon that shows that you're able to gain an assistant is either colored silver or gold. So I assume that's the side of the assistant that you get. Oh yeah, there's a whole page here on assistants. So let's read through that too, shall we? Assistants. Assistants are people who have come to join your expedition. Each assistant has 2 levels, silver and gold. The gold side has the stronger effect. The research track will give you silver assistants when you move your notebook token to certain rows. Recruiting assistants. When you move your notebook to a row with this symbol, choose one of the assistants available on the supply board. Usually there are 3. However, some of the stacks might be empty later in the game. Assistants not on top are supposed to be kept hidden so that no one knows what they are until the assistant above them has been taken. Set the assistant on one of the assistant squares on your player board. The silver side should be face up. Assistants have various effects. If the effect is a free action, you have the option to use it immediately, or you can save it for later. Using assistants. To use your assistant, turn it sideways, as shown. A sideways assistant is exhausted and not available for use. In general, you can use an assistance effect only once per round. At the end of the round, all assistants are refreshed, turned right way up again. However, certain card effects might refresh an assistant during the round, allowing it to be used again, perhaps even immediately. Upgrading assistants. When you move your notebook to a row with this symbol, so that's a golden symbol, upgrade one of your assistants to the gold level. That is, you flip it over to its gold side. At this time, the assistant is refreshed, even if its silver level effect was used earlier in the round. Okay, so you don't just collect a new assistant on the gold side. When you see the gold assistant icon, you flip a silver assistant that you have over to the gold side. And if that silver assistant was exhausted, you refresh it immediately when you flip it to its gold side. And okay, we are almost there. We are on to our passing action. Let's check it out. Okay guys, I think we finally made it. We are at the last main action, and that is passing. Whew. All right, so for passing, on your turn you can choose to pass. Inform the other players that you will take no more turns this round. Passing counts as your main action for the turn. At this time, you should also use up any free actions you still have available. Once you have passed, you get no more turns for the rest of the round. The flow of play continues clockwise, but it skips over you. And conversely, if you are the only player left who has not yet passed, then you can take multiple turns in a row. The round ends when all players have passed. So, after everyone has passed, you're going to set up for the next round. And how this is going to work is, if it is not the end of round 5, you end the round by setting up for the next one. All players simultaneously do the following. Return both of your archaeologists to your player board. Each time you take back an archaeologist from site with a guardian, add 1 fear card, of course. Usually your hand will be empty, but if you have cards left, each card can be discarded to your play area or saved for the next round. Okay, so you can save cards from round to round. That's good to know. Tip, use all your cards during your turn if you can. Keeping a card in your hand for the next round is useful only in rare cases. Okay, so maybe not as cool as I thought. Don't do that, Daniel. Don't be stupid. Gather all cards in your play area, shuffle them thoroughly, and put them face down on the bottom of your deck. Note, items you bought during the round will now be above all the cards you have just shuffled. Refresh your assistants. The card rows should be adjusted as follows. Exile the 2 cards on either side of the moon staff. This gets rid of 1 artifact and 1 item. Move the moon staff to the right to indicate the number of next round. Refill the card row. The starting player marker moves 1 place to the left. There will be a new starting player in the new round. Start the new round by drawing until you have a full hand of 5 cards. If your deck does not have enough cards to make a full hand, just draw them all. End of round 5. At the end of round 5, all players take back their archaeologists and gain fear from guardians. Skip all the other steps and proceed to final scoring. Final scoring! We made it, folks. Ring-ling-ling-ling-ling. At the end of the game, I'll record everyone's points on the scoring sheet. Scoring sheets. Who would have thought? Points can come from the following sources. Each of your research tokens scores points based on its row. Magnifying glasses in the Lost Temple row will score points based on the order in which they reach the Lost Temple. Each of your temple tiles score the amounts shown on the tile. Each of your idols score 3 points, even if it's in a slot. Also add in the points shown in empty idol slots. Each guardian you overcame is worth 5 points, whether you use the boon or not. Each item and artifact card scores the amount of points shown in the lower right corner. Fear cards score -1 point each. If you have fear tiles, see page 23, they score -2 points each. What is that? What's a fear tile? The other side of the tile is a fear tile. If you are supposed to take a fear card when the fear deck is empty, you take a fear tile instead. It will be worth -2 during the final scoring. Keep the fear tile in your play area. If you have a chance to exile a card from your play area, you may exile the fear tile instead. Okay, So if everyone's getting fear, then the fear ramps up. There's like, everyone's been afraid for too long, we're just more terrified now. Whoever has the most points wins. All right, who would have thought? So there we go. I think I have successfully learned the Lost Ruins of Arnak. So happy you came along for the ride. I don't know how useful that was for you. Really, the main purpose of this video is to show learning games the hard way. So this has been a blast for me. If not a little tiring, I hope it's a blast for you. Here we're going to go over to the game shelf and I'm going to give you some of my final thoughts on what I think of the rule set here before us. Okay, so there we have it, folks, the Lost Ruins of Arnak. And I'm very excited to play this game. I'm very excited for what Lost Ruins of Arnak promises in terms of abundance. It seems like it's going to give you a lot of points, and it's going to give you a lot of actions, and it's going to give you just a lot of things to do on your turn. The first round might be a little tight, and you might think, ooh, I don't know if I can do that much here. But I think that's going to blow up pretty soon for you in terms of all the ways that you can do actions, from spots and site tiles, the guardians, all of these different things, that the research track, the temple tiles. There's just a lot going on here to get. I don't think you'll have a turn that will feel particularly unsatisfying. So yeah, what can I say? I think this is going to be a real, a joyful experience where you're just going to be able to get some cool things in your hand. You're going to be trekking, uncovering new sites, discovering new things, and just the pictures on all of the tiles and the cards I think are really going to evoke this feeling of exploring, of uncovering, of unearthing new things. So yeah, again, this is a strange experience, right? Learning a game without playing it. So I don't have a lot to say about it other than I'm excited. I think all the mechanics work really well together. I feel confident now to bring it to the table. And I hope that if this was sitting on your shelf, that you now feel confident to at least, if not get it to the table, to at least do what I did tonight and run through it yourself. So, okay guys, thank you so much for joining me, for sticking it out with me, for watching this whole video. If you like what I've been doing, again, please subscribe, please hit the bell for notifications, and if you have ideas of what games I should learn on this channel, just feel free to comment them below. So I hope that this can become a community thing where we just learn more games together, we get more games off of our shelf of shame, and we just experience a lot more joy with a lot more games. Until next time, you guys just hang on tight and have the best time ever. Okay, peace out.
Somewhere in